today I'm going to talk about the needs of a sales rep on the street. I think they need more volume. Hopefully you can hear me now. The needs of a sales rep on the street. How many people, I'm just curious, are currently in sales with their companies? And any of you who are sales managers, or a couple of sales managers here too. So I've been a sales rep for most of my wine career. When I've worked in wholesale, I've also been on the retail side, and I've been a sommelier as well, as Lauren had mentioned. So I understand the needs as you know, the rep out there on the street. All my experience has been in New York City. Are you mostly, who's New York based and who's New York based? So some, and the rest are around the country. Life as a sales rep in New York City and maybe other metropolitan areas can be a little bit different. We're usually not as mobile. We don't drive as much. We're probably using public transportation a little bit more. I'm going to sort of allude to that, and that's sort of part of the day-to-day that I've experienced. But the essential tools are the same no matter where people are working and the communications processes. So a day in the life of a sales rep. You know, it can be quite a lonely life sometimes. You're out on the street, you're out visiting at accounts all day. You're out early in the morning, maybe 10 a.m. after you've already been sending emails from home or at the office, depending on your setup. And the day can go till late in the evening. It could be sort of an early out around 7 p.m. or you could still be hustling a little bit later to meet those key accounts where you know your beverage director might have a little bit of free time towards the end of their shift. So the sales rep typically is going to need a little bit of help from their manager or from the back office. So the New York sales rep, I mean, this is their commute. They're on the train, they're on the MTA, and it's not fun sometimes. Their office, their mobile office is in cafes. They are, their day is made up of meeting clients, trying to get as many tastings as possible. Sending in orders. Again, this is all done remotely. You're going to have, one of these. As a sales rep in New York, it's all about having your bag of samples and your smartphone. That's really how you connect with your clients and with the office. More tastings throughout the day. Moving between accounts and hopefully getting as many appointments in as you can right till the end of the day. So. For a salesperson to effectively do their job, there's key things that they need that management must provide, that the company must provide. There's the tools of the trade. You can have a great bag of wines, a great portfolio, but you need to have the supporting information. Don't underestimate the level of information that your clients may need and that your salesperson would like to be able to provide them in order to close the sale. That can range from something as simple as, a region and varietal or a wine name with a price, all the way through to appellation information about the vineyards, terroir, aspect, the winemaking techniques, etc. All of that. So please try to provide that for your sales team, because when they need it, it's going to be very important for them to maintain credibility. For you at the company, for the supplier they're representing, and for themselves, because don't forget, they're maintaining the relationship. They're the ones on the street who the client has the relationship, and it's very much a relationship game. It's essential. One of the most important things that I've heard when I polled colleagues preparing for this presentation, I polled many colleagues I've known over the years and peers that I meet on the streets. Accurate inventory information. If you can provide live access to that through smart technology tools, then do that. But at the very least, provide information on a weekly or even a daily basis if you can. It's important they know what they're selling against. They can't sort of give a wine a push and then find that you were down to your last 20 cases and the other two reps have already sold that today. Give them an idea as well of what's in the next container? What are you expecting when you're expecting new arrivals, whether it's new vintages or just restocking their best sellers? Their bread and butter wines cannot really go out of stock. You can't do that. You just have too much attrition. You're going to lose clients and you're going to lose your salespeople as well if that happens. regularly. Provide the best tools you can to facilitate the transactions. So if you can put that on an iPad or similar device, which would be all of the technical information, the inventory information, etc. One very good tool that I've found is Google Drive. Google Drive will allow you to store PDFs, to store Excel spreadsheets and other information, photographs of vineyards, photographs of wine cellars, whatever the salesperson needs. And by digitizing, you're sort of showing a technology-forward approach, and that will impress your buyers, especially if they're younger buyers. They like to see that. It makes them feel a little bit better about engaging with you as a company, as opposed to maybe being a little bit more old-fashioned with folders and things like that. Of course, it's very much about the product as well. It's about having the right product mix. Your sales reps are going to need a book of products that will get them the widest range of accounts and allow them to best penetrate the accounts. It's very important to have a diversity in your range of products, whether you're having a sort of a global portfolio or whether even if you're working within one particular country, it's important to diversify within regions. Take Italy, for instance. Don't just do Tuscany, don't just do Sicily. It's important to diversify outside of one particular region. But, there's many reasons for diversifying. One is a successful salesperson will be able to sell SKUs from multiple parts of your portfolio. So even if you're known as a Spanish specialty company, give your sales reps wines from New Zealand, from France, from South Africa as well, because once they get account control, they'll be able to sell those other wines in, even though you'll be known as, let's say, a Spanish wine portfolio. But it can be risky not to have diversity. You'll remember, many of you, the Austrian scandal about 25 years ago when there was antifreeze discovered in some of the wines, and the bottom fell out of the Austrian wine market for many years. So don't open yourself up to the risk of that happening with your portfolio. It's going to take too long to recover. You want various price points in your portfolio. You can't have it too low end or too high end. The different parts of the portfolio should be able to let your reps sell for by the glass placements, where they're going to get regular reorders, they're going to get volume orders, because those orders will bring in other wines in their wake. That's where they'll be able to get wines to place on the big list. They won't be the volume sellers, but they'll be wines at higher price points. Maybe you've got wines that'll sell for a happy hour. Maybe it's an inexpensive Muscadet for an oyster bar happy hour. Maybe you've got a Cabernet Sauvignon from Puglia that can sell to a burger place for a happy hour. So there's also the holy grail of the 15 and under table or the 20 and under table, depending on your market, that will again give your sales rep those repeat orders on a regular basis, aka the floor stack, similar notion in bigger markets with more space. Here in New York, we don't see as many floor stacks. We just don't have the real estate in many accounts. But also have more expensive wines, so special occasion wines for dinner parties at the weekends, some top shelf selections for the wine collectors as well. So really have a good diversity of wines, and encourage feedback. Again, this is about relationships, so it allows your sales reps to maintain a relationship with their clients to ensure that you're representing the products that are meaningful to them. So, of course, you start your company with a vision, but you need to be flexible and you need to be able to respond to the market, and that will give you more sales and it'll keep your salespeople engaged. Communication, of course, is absolutely critical. Again, I mentioned sometimes it could be like a lonely business out there on the street as a salesperson. They need to know that there's somebody within reach that can help them get an important piece of information, sometimes at very short notice, to help them close sales. So establish a cadence of regular updates for various kinds of information. I already mentioned earlier the importance of inventory reports, so they know what they're selling against. But let them know everything they need to know about new products, whether they're additions to existing suppliers' ranges or new products from new regions that you're bringing in. Give them some advance notice because it could be useful for them to plant seeds of information in their account bases. Make their job easy for them. So if there's new restaurants opening in their territory, send them information about that. Just really help them because their job often is not easy. They're dealing with, rejections on a daily basis. They're dealing with the elements, all the things that I've mentioned. So really, really help them. Send them industry news that they may not get. You might have one subscription to a trade publication at the office. So take a snapshot of that, send them a PDF of some latest trends. As a manager, you should be accessible via phone, via text, and via email on as reasonable a basis as you can. So that sometimes will be late, but you're their conduit to success. You know things that they don't know, and it's very important that they can access information and also know that you're responsive as a manager. That's vitally important, and something that I heard again from colleagues in the field as well as my own experience. Make sure that the back office confirms all orders promptly, and they can communicate any shortcomings in case everybody had a successful day with a particular wine and you run out of it. Depending on the size of your company, you might not have, a pallet of wine could sell out in pretty short order over a day or two if something unexpected happens. Maybe there's a great review or something that you didn't anticipate. So confirm the order so they can get back to their clients, because they might be able to make a substitution, but rather than something just not showing up the next day. They're out on their own in the field a lot of the time, so field support is very important. They have the great wines, you've given them the tools, you've given them the wines, but sometimes they just can't quite crack a particular account. So visit the accounts on a regular basis. You're not checking up on your salespeople unless they're weak. But generally, and this point was made yesterday, don't focus on what people are bad at, focus on what they're good at, and I completely agree with that point that the first speaker made. But sometimes you might need to go to an account with them and you'll see something that they didn't see. You might see something on the shelf in a retailer or something on the wine list that perhaps they didn't see, and you can coach them afterwards so that they will have some kind of a breakthrough. A big thing, I don't know if you know, it's the jargon work with, and I know many of you are in the business, so you'll probably know. The work with is when your supplier comes to town and they want to see where are their wines performing, what restaurants are they in, especially if they're more premium restaurants. They want to see the retailers that they're in. But as you probably know, if you've been a sales reps hate doing work withs. But more than sales reps hate doing work with, their clients hate them even more. They don't want to have to spend the time meeting with suppliers, with some exceptions, of course. If it's a blue chip domain, if somebody's some kind of Bordeaux aristocracy, they might get a kick out of meeting somebody. But generally speaking, they're going to have to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes going through a tasting, sitting down when they don't have the time in the day. So it's important to really rethink that. And there's many ways of doing that. So rather than going out and trying to visit 5 or 6 accounts or more with one of your reps, have a breakfast. Maybe you do a breakfast for your reps. So you have a get together and all the reps meet your supplier, and they can build rapport with them. I've always found that when people have met the supplier, that they just feel a lot more engaged. They feel a little bit more skin in the game with those particular products, and they're more willing to give them that extra push when a supplier leaves. So supplier and rep relationships are very important to nurture. But then also think about what else you can do during the day. Maybe you can do a lunch meeting for a set of clients. Certainly go out and see some accounts, but don't make the supplier visit all about the work with. Maybe there's a dinner for select clients. Maybe there's an after-hours event for sommeliers. So think about other ways that are more engaging and more interesting rather than the traditional work with. The most difficult people to sometimes to get people to meet will be, export managers. They're not, the winemaker and the wine grower with dirt under the fingernails. You'll have a little higher chance of success with. But based on on who's visiting, you can sort of adjust the activities for the day and find the right mix of activities. Client relations are important. I mentioned before about going and visiting accounts with your sales reps and also inviting your clients to lunches and different events. Your sales reps will probably have a very close relationship with their clients. There's a good chance they've been with those clients longer than they've been with you. Because when you hire a sales rep, there's a strong likelihood, if they've had any industry experience, that they're going to bring some accounts with them. So they've had long relationships with their clients. So out of respect to both your employee, your sales rep, and to the client, it's very important to know them, to know who's who, know their names, know what they buy, why they're buying particular products, where is it fitting into their program, and when they buy. This is all useful to help, again, show respect to all the various constituents, but also it helps mitigate against shortages, because maybe somebody is only buying something seasonally. So just to help understand that, it's key that you know who the players are. Your rep has 100 accounts. You're not going to know everybody intimately, but certainly know the key players, that those 20% who are giving 80% of the business. Again, to reiterate a point that the first speaker made yesterday, and that was an excellent presentation. Social and entertainment is important too. This is a fun industry, we're selling, alcoholic beverages. I mean, let's not lose sight of the fact that a lot of people like to have fun in and around their jobs. So make the client feel part of the extended family. Invite them to events at the offices. Again, these could be producer visits. Bring them along for that. Also, maybe have an annual picnic or some sporting event that you can get people access to those events. So, pick your clients, and this can be sometimes a way of rewarding your sales reps too, by making sure you look after their clients. If you get tickets to a game and you bring them along, that kind of a thing. So that's important. Again, expenses. Smaller companies can't always cover expenses, but there's different ways that you can allow your employees to cover some kind of client entertainment. Maybe you offer that when they get to a certain tier of sales. You can offer expenses, but it's also quite easy to do really interesting things. For instance, a very popular thing for sales reps here in New York, both amongst themselves but also with clients, is to bring them to a BYO in Chinatown, Peking Duck House. Anybody who's here will know that it has no corkage fee, and it's a great place to bring some bottles. Maybe there's a few bottles from the cellar, some back vintage that you can bring, and make the employee or the client feel a little bit more important, along with your sales rep too. Allow them to do that and nurture those relationships, or do where you can have the. Allow them to entertain clients in their accounts, because of course then you're pleasing many people. You're pleasing the account, you're pleasing the guest who might necessarily work at the account, and also your sales rep. So I mentioned maybe establishing some of the sort of expenses and entertainment as a form of reward and recognition. Your sales reps, if they've been with you for some time, if you have a great book, if you've been helping them, hopefully they're making plenty of money. Hopefully sales are strong. But the bigger your company gets, maybe there's higher expectations on them. There's other ways of making them feel appreciated for their efforts. So you can offer fun incentives. That can be anything from the aforementioned dining in your accounts to trips. So trips to wine growing regions, and many of those are subsidized by the EU. There's different sort of regional marketing groups. So there are ways to find out with your supplier how you can bring your employees and some of their key accounts on educational trips. That's very important. You can offer vouchers too. Maybe it's something for an Apple Store, Amazon, coupons or vouchers that many people will use. Maybe it's something for Zappos, right? Zappos is a shoe company. The one thing that all sales reps goes through a lot of is they go through a lot of shoes, especially if they're on the street. So they're using up a lot of shoe leather. So give them something that's kind of fun and relevant to their job. Include them in tasting events. So invite them to events like this. Certainly invite them to different regional trade shows. But also when you bring new product into the office to evaluate with your portfolio manager, if you have them, or if you're a smaller company and you're doing the evaluation, invite your employees to participate in that. And that could be, as some kind of a reward. Maybe everybody does it, or else you do it on a rotating basis. They really will feel a little bit of ownership. They'll understand why you choose things, why you reject certain wines as well. So that's always nice to do. Be generous with your praise. It doesn't cost anything. This is something, again, I heard from a lot of people. They just want a little pat on the back. It's very simple to do, and do that, as often as you can to make it seem meaningful to them, and do it publicly if you can. Maybe at a meeting, if somebody opened a special account that you had been trying to open for some time, acknowledge them publicly in front of their peers. Sometimes you give people extra responsibilities, enable growth for them. Maybe somebody likes doing social media. You can put them in charge of your social media account. They don't always have to pay them to do these things. They may like doing that because it just gives them extra experience. Maybe you want to groom somebody to be a portfolio manager at some point. So put them in charge of some wines. If you bring in something new to the portfolio, let's say you bring in a bunch of new wines from Galicia, maybe for the presentation that you give to your sales team and to the rest of the company, you ask one of your sales reps to kind of take the lead. They'll do all the research and they can lead that. So that's another nice way to really make people feel included and encourage career growth for them. So I think that the main sort of points that I made are, it's really about providing the right tool set, which is both information and access to that information, ideally through technology. It's about providing regular and very open and honest communications to your employees to enable them to have a very fluid conversation with their clients and to know exactly what's happening, and to provide the right kind of reward and recognition, and that sort of intersects between all of those three things. So that's my presentation. You can follow me at New York Wine Guy on Instagram. I'll also be hanging out in the meeting area outside afterwards for a while if anybody has any questions. But in the meantime, does anybody have any questions on the floor regarding as it relates to sales and managing a sales team and providing the information?
If you do, I have a mic, so flag me down.
I think we're good. Excellent. Well, thanks, folks. Thank you very much.